Hey, how's it going? This is Nick. Welcome to my channel. This is actually a new category that I want to start on my channel, which is the film school. So basically, I just want to share the experience, the knowledge, and the lessons I learned from attending a film school, which I paid a lot of money for. So you can watch these videos. So hopefully, you don't need to pay those money for these lessons. So today, I want to talk to you about how to make an award-winning short film. Maybe it can be your next student senior film project, or just your next low budget to no budget film project. So yeah, it is definitely possible to make a award-winning film with absolutely no budget. So tip number one, do not be too ambitious. I think especially when you're doing a low budget and no budget or student film, always try to keep the story simple, because rather to tell a simple story in a really, really good and amazing way than to try to squeeze a huge ambitious story into just 12 minutes. Because especially when you're doing student project at a film school, right, most of the time professors want you to limit the story into 12 minutes or 10 minutes. So definitely, if you're just writing, let your imagination fly and then try to write as much as possible and ambitious, going to about aliens or monsters or zombies or whatever story, you're not gonna be able to squeeze all those story into 12 minutes. Yeah, and definitely don't go for just sci-fi movies or bloody action, gory action movies, especially zombies. Because when you're shooting a student film, right, or low budget, no budget, you don't have any budget. And those action movies and sci-fi movies, they rely on big budgets, they rely on special effects. So when you're trying to shoot a gory scene, you're just not gonna be able to have the real blood, to make the entire scene look real. You're not gonna be able to rent the entire set in order to splash blood everywhere or fake brains everywhere. And you're not gonna be able to do really realistic bullets special effects in post, because you just don't have the budget. So, and those things, that it's gonna distract the audience. If your special effects is not real enough, it's gonna distract them. It's gonna distract them from your amazing direction and your cinematography and storytelling ability. So rather focus on the emotion of the characters and the emotion of one simple story, so that your directing skills and your cinematography skills can really shine. Tip number two, definitely try to limit your scenes into just a few locations, because without budget, it's really hard to shoot multiple scenes and multiple different locations. I definitely ran into that issue when I was shooting mine. And it's just really hard to schedule and book multiple locations for your film production. Because when you're a student filmmaker or you don't have any budget, you will find it really challenging to contact the store owners, right, or film at a public locations, because you don't have reputation and you can't offer them really much money. I tried to reach out to the hospital, the health center at my school, to film a scene, which they were really nice. They told me, yeah, you could shoot in one of the rooms, but they could only give me 1 hour of the day for an entire scene, which is completely impossible. And of course, speaking of hospitals, when you're coming up with a story, try not to come up with a story that happens inside a hospital or a police department or a fire station. Try to come up with a story that has the locations, a simple locations, at a neighborhood, on the street, or just some public places where you don't need to worry about copyrights and stuff. Multiple locations also means multiple days of shooting, and especially if you're a student filmmaker, right? Because every single member in your crew has a different class schedule, and they all have exams to attend to. So it can be really, really challenging to try to juggle around everybody's schedules and make shooting arrangements according to everybody's availability. So for tip number 3, maybe some of you are gonna disagree with me, but my professors told me to limit the use of long takes during my student film production because he thought it was gonna be too challenging for students to pull it off. But I will say do as much long takes as possible in your film, and there are just way too many benefits to it. So one is long takes is definitely gonna look really impressive. To your professors, to your fellow students, and definitely to the film festivals, because everybody knows that a long take is hard to shoot. But if you're a good filmmaker, right, you plan out everything before. You plan out the shot list, the storyboard, right? You make arrangement with the actors and the cinematographer, and then you set up the lighting in the correct way. And then if it looks gorgeous in the end, it's definitely gonna be a huge plus for your films to perform in any film festivals. And number 2 is, I'm gonna say this, that long take actually, in my opinion, gonna save you much more time than just a normal scenes with different cuts. Because remember one thing, if you're a student filmmaker and no budget filmmaker, right, you don't have that many cameras to use. Especially for me, I only had one camera to use. So whenever I wanted to do a scenes with different cuts, I had to ask my actors to perform multiple times, and then I just shoot it like 3 to 4 times, but each time in a different camera angle with for a different cut in the scene. And that can be so exhausting. Like if you have different cameras, of course you don't have to do a long take. You can just set up different cameras and then maybe just shoot everything in one take, and boom, there you go, you got 3 or 4 cuts you can use. But when you only have one camera, you plan out the lighting, you plan out which angle you're gonna do, you plan out your camera movement, and then if your actors and everybody perform extremely well, maybe one take is good enough. Of course, long take doesn't only save time during the production, it also can save much time during the post-production as well. So being a student filmmaker, you always have like a tight schedule from the professor. You always have a deadline to upload your films to the professor for your grade, right? And also film festival has deadlines as well. So when you are doing the post-production, instead of just like putting every single cuts together and then color grade them each one of them to make sure the colors look balanced and stuff, you just have one long take and boom, there you go. That's just me being like lazy, of course, but that's one of the benefits. So tip number 4 is actually a tip that I take as one of the most important tip when it comes to filmmaking, is that everything in your film should have a meaning. The story of your film, the cinematography, the styles, the lighting, the color, everything. I see way too many filmmakers, trying to make a film because they feel inspired by a particular scene from, a big Hollywood feature film they watch, or they see this super cool zombie movie. They say, oh hey, I want to make a dope zombie movie as well, but all they think about is like how to make the scene as gory as possible, or how to recreate the scene from a big movie. But just remember that the scene extracted from a feature film, right? It's extracted from a feature film, and that film ultimately has some meaning to it. Even a horror film, of course, like all those amazing horror film, Hereditary, Midsommar, they all have a meaning to it ultimately. So I feel like when you're trying to come up with a story, don't just think about what story you want to tell first. Think about what meaning you want to convey with your story, with your film first, and then think about what story you can tell in order to convey this meaning. At least that's my method when it comes to, preparing a film. And tip number 5 is for my fellow student filmmakers out there, is that don't put yourself down and don't limit yourself just as a student making film. Right, I see way too many students when they're making films for their next film projects, school projects, or just the next assignment for their film class, right? They don't put as much effort into it, right? Because they think it's just a film assignment, which is not though. because your films can still have really great impact on your future career. You can still submit your film to film festivals, and especially many film festivals, they have student film category in which you can compete against other student filmmakers. So when you're making a film at school, right, this is actually the perfect opportunity to make a great film, because you don't have the limitations of actually hiring paid actors or crews, right? You're all aspiring student filmmakers and maybe drama students all want to just like put in as much effort as you can to make a great film together. So truth be told, you actually don't have that many limitations. If you're already taking the time and the days into making a film, right? So why don't you just put in as much effort as you can to make the greatest film you can as possible?
With you, but actively holding it.
The on button, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's more visible.
The stars don't come out, don't show, huh?
Well, if you could do one shot with lights off if I think if you turn them off, it shows.
Are those glow in the dark?
Yeah, they are.
Put a net.
I've had one.
Alright, so that was the first episode of the film school. If you want to watch my student senior film project from UCSC, you can click on the card above, wherever it is. And you can leave the comment down below and let me know maybe what other topics you want me to cover in the next episode. And yeah, please like and subscribe and stay tuned. Okay. Perfecto.
Perfecto.
Bravo!
It's over.
Maybe I should talk like this. Maybe I should start talking like this. Wear your mask.
Wear your
Wear your mask.
jacket mask.
Wear your jacket mask. This doesn't work. I'm Batman. Halloween has passed, sadly.
Do that again. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Okay, well, hopefully that's a good episode.